What do you see when you look at this image? Maybe James at the end of a passenger train. Maybe a pretty iconic illustration from The Sad Story of Henry. Maybe Sir Topham Hatt having that shit on. No? Okay, maybe I'm the weird one. Well, personally, for me, I like to think about what happened after this image and what it caused for the entire Thomas fandom. I mean, being accurate, this is probably just James, right? It's a Railway series illustration. Those aren't very consistent, so can't it just be chopped up to that? Well, yeah. But the fandom is a bit more creative than that. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we not only ask, but hopefully answer the question. Who is Eagle? Or Winston? Or who is the Red Engine? You know what we're talking about. Well, we kind of answered what Eagle is in the intro. He's James, just illustrated incorrectly. But that's not to say it's inherently wrong to say this may not be James, as the differences are ample, albeit not too drastic. On this engine, we have red wheels, we have a red dome, yellow and black lining, which isn't too off from James and could just very well be gold. But down to the locomotive, or the engine, this is James, exactly the same, down to the basis. But to be fair, there are other unnamed or randomly colored engines. Hell, even another red engine, so I mean, I don't think it's too hard to imagine how this became a fandom creation. Now, I know Eagle personally in a bit of a weird way. My first exposure to him was on Trains 2006. I think coming from Sodor Workshop, and he was the only engine besides a scrap Percy I could ever get to work. So early TrainBoy kinda had him as a mainstay. That's also where I got the name Eagle from, and I imagine that's where many others did too. But it should be noted he's also called Winston, or many other names in other people's canon. It's not the easiest thing to pinpoint, or confirm how long, but, I mean, as long as I've been on the internet looking at Thomas things, Eagle has been there, which from what I can tell started back in the Sodor Island forum days, I believe through the extended Railway series. I mean, how else can I say it? To me, Eagle is just nostalgic, and believe it or not, that's sorta what led me here. Yeah, this is a tiny Eagle model, a literal bite-sized red engine. That kind of fittingly, at a point, was going to be James, but, you know, since I've never made an Eagle, we're here now. I have now. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, with all of the exposition and explanation out of the way, how exactly did I make my tiny Eagle? Well, let's get into that. You know, I do find it kind of funny. The way Eagle was made was someone illustrated James, incorrectly, and that made a whole new character. This started as James, and I just kind of didn't like how it looked, and that made Eagle. You know what I'm saying? That just feels like I don't know, it feels like it works all around. This is definitely a unique locomotive. So for making this model, let's start right at the beginning. This is actually the first model I have 3D printed in-house and completed. You know, this is the first model pretty much made with my 3D printer. Now, not every part is 3D printed, but everything that is 3D printed was done in-house, and that's something, you know, again, that makes this one a bit unique, at least to me. But before that, before anything, came the design, and this was largely made with something found on Thingiverse. You see, the Farquhar Fireman has made a Class 28 and uploaded it in 00 scale, so I kind of just took that file and modified it down to in. Yeah, pretty much just to fit on a Bachmann in James chassis, and this took several tries. I believe exactly 3, and on the third body shell, it just fit enough to where I decided it would work. When it comes to this overall design, I largely didn't make it. I kind of just modified it to fit on the chassis I wanted it to run on. And of course, on the chance you'd like to do the same, link is in the description. Now, pretty quickly after the body itself was printed, I moved on to things like sanding and priming and making the very small details, like the reverser rod, which is actually a paperclip and sits on the side there. And when it came to overall paintwork, I really couldn't find a better red than Italian Red by Tamiya, which, as you can see here, applied beautifully. And again, seeing as at first this was gonna be James, I think it's a color even he would be proud of. But yeah, the body was spray painted, and then I moved on to hand painting for things like the smoke box and the footplate, the inside of the cab, and then came weathering and the gold parts, and again, it's not really a crazy in-depth process for making these locomotives. It's probably better I let the pictures speak for themselves. But pretty quickly around this point, I also decided this would not be James, so I painted the chassis red, went a little heavier on the weathering, and printed an Ivo Hue face from Rexecutions. This was also printed in-house, scaled down, and very painfully painted, but I think it paid off in the end. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Minus having to cut away so much of the original James chassis. That really sucked. But yeah, besides that, yeah, that pretty much sums up how I made Eagle. You know, I can't lie. I feel like this is overall a bit more fitting as Eagle. Not to mention he's also smaller than Percy, and I don't feel like that's very accurate for James. That's just me. That's just me. Plus, he maybe kind of fits in a bit more with the Bachmann engines, you know, not being James. I'm sorry, when he had the copper dome, it was too late. I'm leaving it. It just is what it is now. Again, I don't know. Yeah, I'm proud. And hopefully you guys enjoyed learning how I did it. So what exactly is Eagle, or the Red Engine? Whatever you want him to be, and this one was mine. And I really hope it inspired you to maybe try something similar.
Either subscribe, donate, or get the fuck out.